He's an award-winning entrepreneur who had to overcome poverty to achieve tremendous business success. He started his first successful business while still a freshman at Oral Roberts University, and by age 20, he received national attention when he received the Metro Chamber of Commerce Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and for his innovative best practice customer service in his numerous business ventures. At the age of 27, he was able to add the U.S. Small Business Administration Entrepreneur of the Year and the U.S. Chamber National Blue Ribbon Quality Award to his resume. Today, Clay is the owner of 9 different companies and travels the country working as an engaging sales trainer, a business coach, and a nationally recognized educator for organizations both big and small. Today, speaking to us about outstanding customer service, please welcome Clay Clark.
Okay, first off, before we get started, does everybody have a handout? You should have a note-taking device there on your table of fun there, underneath your pad, maybe. We'll make sure everybody has a note-taking device. And we're going to talk about customer service 101. I'm going to turn this off real quick because this is amazing. Just 1 second here.
Feedback.
Awesome. Feedback. Beautiful. Okay, so here's the deal. Customer service 101, the art of providing outstanding customer service. Who here by a show of hands knows who this guy is? Who here by a round of applause knows who this guy is? Bob Ross, he draws happy trees, okay? And sometimes you watch Bob Ross and you're like, I'm not really sure what he's doing or how this works, but then he always ends up making this great painting. Have you ever sat down and watched the guy before and you're like, what is he doing? And then it just kind of works out. Well, I kind of liken that to also the old Nintendo. Who here had a Nintendo back in the day? Who here has no idea about this Nintendo? Who's never seen? Everybody here seen one? This is good. I'm not that old. Okay. Well, with the Nintendo, you remember when we all blew on the game to make it work? Nobody sent it to us though in the owner's manual. We never got it. It never came in the box. It didn't say if this game stops working, if the game freezes up, just take it out and blow on it, and it's going to work. But yet, millions of Americans all discovered that it worked, right? So some of the things I'm going to teach you are kind of like blowing on the game. We're not quite sure why they work, but they do. And there's a barista. I'm going to read you this testimony real quick here, because this is, who here likes Starbucks? Who here likes Starbucks?
Yeah.
This just in from our barista headquarters. When you make coffee at Starbucks, you're not a coffee maker, you're a barista. That's the kind of title we need here. Here's what he says. His name is Scott Taylor. He's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He says, I've come to realize that the foundational principles work regardless of what you're doing. I work at a coffee shop, aka Starbucks, and my boss told me, hey, we really need to sell more coffee beans. So I started employing the creative use of the action steps and methods taught by Mr. Clay Clark. Our store shot up to the #1 spot in whole bean sales out of 613 stores in our entire region. That's 107th at Riverside if you want to Google this store. And he says not only that, we're averaging 5 pounds sold out of every 100 customers, which I don't know what that means, but apparently it's kind of a big deal. So this is over 1.5 more times more than any other store in the country. And he goes on to explain how just putting a few moves in has changed the game for him. And the second commitment I make is we're going to have a little bit of a dance party tonight, kind of a karaoke thing. I don't think it's a dance party, it's kind of a karaoke casino night. But I want to make sure everybody has at least one courtesy dance move. So if we can all stand to our feet real quick. I'm going to teach you the Cupid Shuffle. Towards this way, gentlemen, just so that we're on the same page, okay? And the way the Cupid Shuffle works is we do everything 4 times. Why? Because that's the way it works, okay? 4 times. So here we go. Starting off going to the right. Here we go. And 5, 6, 7, 8. To the right, to the right, to the right, to the right. Here we go. To the left, to the right, to the left, to the left. Here we go. Now kick with the right foot, kick with the left foot, kick with the right foot, kick with the left. Now walk it. Now we're facing this way. Deep thoughts. What is customer service? This is kind of an interactive format. So what is customer service? Anybody here want to volunteer? What is customer service? Just kind of, you can shout. Yes, you certainly agree.
Listening to the customer.
Listening to the customer. Okay. Anybody else have a thought? What is customer service? Anybody else? Bueller? Anybody else? Yes, you can.
Going above and beyond.
Going above and beyond. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else have any thoughts on what is customer service? Okay. Well, as far as customer service, when I say customer service, I want you to think about an organization that is awesome with customer service. Go ahead and picture in your mind. It could be a team, an organization. I would argue it's something that you're passionate about, right? Because you like the way they treat you so much. Think about one example. Everybody got one? Okay. Go ahead and volunteer. What's an example of a great you in the blue?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Who loves Chick-fil-A? Okay, what's another example? You sir. Apple?
Yeah.
How many of you kept the box? Come on, how many of you kept the box? Why are we keeping it? I don't know, we just keep the box. What's that all about, right? I mean, it's so good we want to keep the box. Wouldn't it be nice if everyone went home and kept like our skincare bag? Is there a skincare bag we get a bag? Maybe they kept our receipt and framed it? I don't know. But I mean, it's something. What's one more example? One more example you can think of. Disney. I mean, Disney's one of these things where we just talk about Disney movies. They don't pay us to do it. They don't have to give us a referral program. We just talked about the movie because it compelled us so much, right? You ever waited in line at Disney? I mean, there's characters that come by, and all the guys who are doing the maintenance are super happy all the time. It's unbelievable. And no one gets to see the mouse smoke. You ever seen the mouse smoke? I'm only saying this because I actually got a chance to see the former vice president of Disney speak. And he talked about how there's no smoking on the grounds because it would freak the kids out if they saw the mouse smoke. You know what I mean? And everyone's a character, So it's a deal where they're in character. So one thing we can get from that is, are we in character? Are we actually in the part? Because the big concept about customer service is we are acting the part of a character who's excited all the time. So real talk, I have 5 kids. Who here has 2 kids or more? 2 kids or more even? You know what I'm talking about. You get a text message and it's like, Holmes just threw up. Well, if you're not careful, you're going to bring that to the next interaction with the customer, right? You're like, my 5-year-old threw up. They say, how are you? And you're like, my 5-year-old threw up. Well, that's not very inspiring. That doesn't make me want to come back and visit you, right? You got to act the part. You got to make sure you're in that role at all times. Now, what do the stats tell us about customer service? I'm going to give you some stats. And some of you guys maybe thought of 1 or 2 examples of great customer service, but isn't there more examples of poor customer service than great customer service? You guys can kind of write these down because they're semi-disturbing here, okay? 1, according to American Express, they survey all the companies that provide Amex services. 60% of Americans believe that businesses don't care about good customer service. Anybody agree with that? Anybody agree with that? 60%? Okay. 75% of people said they would hang up after waiting on hold for longer than 5 minutes. 75. Who here does that? You hang up? Right? Okay. So 75% of people said they tell their friends and family about negative experiences when they get home from work. How many of you seen this happen at your home just in the last week? Honey, how was your day? Oh my gosh, I was in line and, right? I mean, how many people have told an awesome story about the DMV recently? It seems like every time I go to the DMV just for a story to tell. It's amazing the stuff that happens there. All right? So the next thing it says here, just a couple more stats for you. 70% of Americans said they are willing to spend up to 15% or more on products that offer great customer service. 59% of consumers are willing to try new product or service for the first time just to see if the customer service experience is better. Just to see. So they're willing to go somewhere else. They're willing to try your competitor if we don't make them happy, just because they're saying, this isn't great, I'm willing to try something else for the first time. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go into the 6 steps, and these are 6 steps you can all put in place that will radically improve your customer service experience if you do take them to heart. Step number 1 is start asking the tough questions. Those of you who said Apple, this is a good one for you. Do we treat customers like the DMV, or do we treat them like Apple? And this is you specifically, so I'm asking you to think about yourself here, okay? Do you specifically treat people like Apple, or do you treat them like the DMV? I want you to think about that for a second. Do they seem somewhat enthusiastic about the product? Do you ever get the impression that people who work at the Apple store are secretly buying like PCs? Come on. Do you get that feeling now? Do you get it or no? I mean, I usually feel like the people who work there are hardcore sold out for Apple. But yet there's other people, I've been to other fast food restaurants, not Chick-fil-A, but other places, and they're like, I'm sorry, that's just our rules. And they kind of throw the company under the bus all the time, right? So the big thing is we want to make sure that we are treating people like an Apple and not like a DMV, okay? The next point here is commit to excellence. What Jeff Bezos says, this is the guy who started Amazon. And he said, who remembers when Amazon first came out? Do you remember that? Remember when it first came out, we were thinking, there's no way. Who here remembers thinking, there's no way I'm going to start buying a bunch of books online? Anybody think like that? I remember I did. I thought, there is no way. Now what happened? What happened to these companies that don't adapt? I mean, you guys remember the bookstore that just went out of business? The big one? Right? I mean, you had, right, Barnes and Noble, and then who were the other guys? Borders, right? People talk about Chick-fil-A all the time. How many of you know people who are, or how many of you are really into Chick-fil-A? Like it's a big thing for you. Yeah. There was a group of, how about this? There's a case study I read here. They're talking about companies where people are willing to get a tattoo of the company's name. And I mean, you think about it, I know we're a skincare company. Maybe there's an irony there. I don't know. But think about it for a second. I mean, Harley, people are getting the tattoo on their arm of the motorcycle. But if you go into Harley, what is it about the Harley experience that's so great? What is it about it? I mean, with your customer service, you have to commit to excellence. Because when you do something good and you satisfy the customer, don't you feel better as a person? Have you ever wowed a customer and it made you feel good? Okay, now here's one of the things I'm going to throw out for you. Customer service is kind of like a boomerang. Okay, so if I'm throwing a boomerang to you and I throw it out there to you, there's a high probability it's going to come back if we do it right. But if I just sit there and wait for the boomerang to arrive and I'm just sitting on the ground next to me, it's not going to arrive at me. Okay, so I'm encouraging you is when a customer walks in, are they on point? Are they acting at that point? Does the customer feel like they're in a show like at Disney? No, they're not being paid to be there, right? They're paying you. So when they show up, how many people have seen a customer with a grumpy face this week? Come on, how many of you seen one of those guys, right? He walks in, right? So you have to throw out that boomerang of positivity before it comes back. Does that make sense? You have to do that. I would just encourage you, start with a joke, start with a smile, do something, but make sure you don't wait for them to bring that to you. The next thing here is, as you're going through this, I want you to give you an example. Steve Jobs gave you this quote. He says, you have to be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. So he's talking about the person next to you. They might not be used to a yardstick of high expectations. Right? And I know you had a wonderful team building exercise, so I'm sure there's nobody in this group who's not positive all the time. But the thing is about this, we have to set that expectation for ourselves and hold the people around us accountable to it. It'll kind of rub off. Can you guys think of people in the office that make everybody else cheerful?
Yeah.
Isn't that a big thing? Now, again, and I'm not trying to tell you who's going to get promoted or anything, but I'll tell you, Jack Welch, the former CEO of GE, he said the number one quality he looks for in promoting people is their ability to energize the people around them, to get the people around them excited. So it's not good enough just to do our job, but it's a good enough job to promote those around us. Does that make sense? To promote the overall expectation. Now, a couple other things I want to share with you here is when you guys go, do you guys have quick trips at all in Dallas? Have you been to a quick trip gas station before in Dallas? Okay. Is there any that have kind of worked their way almost down here? Not yet? Well, who here can, ladies, how many ladies just will straight up not go to the restroom in like a Shell gas station? That's just, you're not doing it. And I'm not trying to rape Shell. I'm just speaking truth here, factually speaking. Here's an example, though, of great customer service and bad customer service. My wife and I, if you guys get a chance to look them up online, there's a gas station called Quick Trip. And Quick Trip feels kind of Starbucks-esque in the way they handle you. Every person that walks in, they say hi to you, and they have a mystery shopper that comes in once per shift. And literally 1/3 of people's paycheck is based on customer service feedback. So every day, somebody goes in and you don't know who they are, okay? And the bathrooms are like pristine clean. And the other ones, Shell, and this literally happens. My wife and I are driving our cars on E, and I'm like, baby, we need to pull over. We're trying to time the bathroom and the gas at the same time. How many of you do that? You try to time the bathroom break and the gas stop? So we pull in, and my wife's like, I don't care if you have to push the car, honey, but I'm not getting out in that place. right? And what happens is you're worried about, am I going to get a disease if I go in here? What's going on? The guy who's answering, the guy who's working as the cashier, he looks like he's working on like a self-help tattoo on his neck, while he's working. It's crazy. And it's the overall expectation that happened. I don't know when that became normal, but now it's kind of normal. Don't you kind of expect that the average gas station bathroom is going to be gross? Yeah, and I don't know, in the medical industry, I do some consulting work with doctors and different groups, but from what I've heard is that the average person expects going to the doctor's office to be, or going to some type of medical clinic to not be a very convenient place. How many of you can relate to that? You don't want to go to the doctor, maybe you put it off because you know you're going to wait for an hour and a half? Right? So the thing is that our competition's already set the bar here, but we have to just work. Does that make sense though? We have to push ourselves to go above that. We don't want to be known as the dirty gas station that people won't go to, okay? We want to make sure that Vitalogy is the place of vitality, all right? So moving on here. The third step is we have to take ownership. We have to take ownership. Okay, now by that I mean we must be willing to truly take ownership of the praise and the complaints. How many of you know what I'm talking about? You're working with an employee and you're a coworker, right? And whenever the praise comes in, they're all about it. Right? When the praise comes in, they're like, oh yeah, that's me, okay, right? But when the complaints come in, they're like, have you witnessed this before? What is that phenomenon about? We all do it though at a certain point, don't we? Just think about the last time you engaged with a customer and there was a complaint. Think about it real quick. Here we go. I'm going to How did we handle it? Did we think about a justification and a reason why the customer was wrong? Or did we stop and think, what could I have done better? As Bill Gates says, your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. For the complaint emails that did come in, if we turn those into opportunities to improve, how much better would we get every year? The next step, step number 4, is we have to learn to effectively deal with customer complaints. Does anybody here struggle with dealing with customer complaints as a wig you out? Anybody here, honestly, it's okay, I'm in trouble, I'm just trying to see where we're at. Does anybody here like customer complaints? You're like, oh baby, this is my favorite part of the day. Yes! Anybody? Okay. Well, customer complaints, based on a lack of hands either way, I know everyone is present, but I'll tell you, with customer complaints, most people really get worked up about this, and so I'm going to teach you a Jedi trick. For those of you who don't like Star Wars, basically the Jedis have mind control, okay? So this is a mind control trick that works all the time, okay? And this system is used by David over here with the Young Brands, okay? And I'm going to teach it to you, okay? So step number 1, it's called the blast system. Step number 1 is believe, okay? So if you're writing these down, step number 1 is believe. So whenever somebody complains, or whenever someone complains, you have to make it seem as though you sincerely believe what they're saying. And is that tough sometimes? How many of you know the customers have been lying to you? Can someone give an example of something where you knew, not the person's name, but an ambiguous example just so we're on the same page? Can someone give an example of where your customer just made up something recently? Yes, ma'am.
You turned me away just because I'm self-pay.
You turned me away because I'm self-pay. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else have a fun one like that? Anybody else give an example? Yes, we are against profits. We try to tear them away. We try to pay themselves because we prefer to go through the insurance policy. We prefer to wait on payment. Yeah. That's what we want to say, but we can't say it. So the first thing is we have to sound like we actually believe, okay? So answer in a tone that's soft. So even though someone's screaming at you, you have to answer in a soft tone. Does anybody here feel like you do this well? Okay? It's tough to do. We have a Jedi in our midst, but it's tough to do. Most people, someone says, well, you turned me away because I'm self-pay. And most is like, no, we didn't. Right? Yes, you did. And then all of a sudden we're having like a 3rd grade talk, right? So we have to say, I do believe what you're saying is, I do believe that you're not just making this up, and I do believe that you're frustrated. Can you tell me what exactly do you mean by this? And the person should calm themselves down. When you answer it with like a soft tone. Softer than you're comfortable with. Okay? I'm being serious. We have to do this, right? So you have to calm down. So it appears as though, and then you have to just talk calmly, because when you do that, the person almost feels guilty for yelling at you. Some of you manipulators in here use this trick all the time. In our office, we teach the guys, when they listen, to always suck in their air and go, oh, I'm sorry. Try it. Everybody try it. 1, 2, 3. It works. It's like when, someone gets mad or something. We call this trick the wounded dog. But what happens is people feel as though they kicked an innocent little puppy. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and trust me, try it next time in the office. It works. It's Jedi power. Someone's yelling at you, you're like, oh, I totally believe it, And they're like, no, it's not you. It's not you. You're in physical pain. Like you got kicked somewhere inconvenient. Okay? So I want you to encourage that. So what you do is you get the answer. Now the fourth step is where we move to satisfy. Okay? This is where we move to satisfy that person. We want to give them some kind of sense that we're actually trying to resolve the issue. But I understand that you guys have food for people in the waiting area. Is that true? See, this is awesome. Guys, I work with doctors all the time, and these homeboys had somebody decorate their office in 1984, and then they feel like that was good then, so it's good now. And they have a lady who works at the front desk, and she's like, hello? And they've got People magazines from 84, too, laid out. Right? And then they look at you, and you say, you've been here for 15 minutes. Who's been here for 15 minutes or more? You've been to a doctor for 15 minutes or more, you're waiting. Who's waited for more than 15 minutes? You know what I'm talking about? Then they're like, and they keep looking at you. They kind of duck below the desk. Oh, crap, someone's here. Right? And they try to avoid you. Have you seen this phenomenon? Lady, there's me, a dude, and you, and this crappy old coffee that's black because it's been recooked 3 times. I know, you see me, lady. Right? Then, when she finally does talk, she says something that doesn't let you know that she believes you, listens to you, answers, satisfied. She just says, he'll be with you shortly. Goes back to reading. That's not a good situation. You guys have food. This is awesome. Americans will do crazy things for food. You put free food, people show up. Right? This is a great thing. So you have that working for you. You should have a good ambiance. But the main thing is we want to let people know that we're actually trying to satisfy them and to make them feel like we do respect them and we do care about them as a customer. And sometimes it's just the level of conviction with which you say it. Right? Ma'am, I want to make sure you have the best experience possible. That's my whole commitment. I don't come here to get yelled at. I come here to make happy customers, and I want you to be the kind of person who isn't going to see me at Target and want to fight me. I want you to know that I do care about you. And sometimes just saying that with conviction matters, doesn't it? Just letting them know, okay? Now the next thing is trust. The final step is trust. The trust is the kind of deal where the customer is willing to give you a handshake at the end and say, we're all good. Or, hey, I appreciate that. Okay? And the way you put the little cherry on top of trust is to tell the customer, I appreciate you for letting me know. So when they're frustrated, at the end of it, when you can be like, and you can go to, we say, I appreciate you for letting me know. Does that make sense? It changes the whole game when you appreciate people for letting you know. And I'm not trying to give you like a religious example. I'm not trying to go religious on you, but just an example. Let's pretend that you don't believe in Jesus as a deity, but you believe in him as a historical figure. How would the story be different if Jesus was up on the cross and he's like yelling back at people? I mean, the whole idea, right, was that he didn't fight back, right? Or if Gandhi would have been like, I know this passive resistance thing's been going pretty well, but let's use bazookas. Right? I mean, he would have gone from like an empowering, inspirational figure, Gandhi, to like a terrorist, right? You see what I'm saying? So the same situation, but a different reaction. So I'm encouraging you to go with the Gandhi, the Jesus method. Don't fight with fight. Don't fight back with people. Okay? Don't fight back with people. It'll make your life a lot better. Now, the situation here, before I'm going to move on to the next one here, is when you guys see excellent customer service, you cannot help but talk about it. That's just how it is. Southwest Airlines, though, they have a flight attendant that actually raps. Have you seen this guy online? He was featured on ABC on 2020. He's a flight attendant who raps everything he says the entire flight. And he does it because he wants to make it a fun environment. He's always trying to change the way he delivers it. And Southwest lets it happen because he gets such a great response. But he has all the passengers start clapping and stomping to the beat, and he raps with them. You guys can find it on YouTube. It's crazy stuff. But there's other ladies who sing, other ladies that tell jokes. But I would encourage you, in the monotony that could become your day, what are we doing to make it fun? Does anybody here have something fun you try to do every day on the phone? Anybody here want to share a fun tip or when you're face-to-face? So I'm saying is, it's not about what you know, it's about what you do. And so I'm going to give you a couple of quotes here. Thomas Edison, he invented the light bulb, he invented video, he invented recorded sound, and he says this: knowledge without application is meaningless. Like, zero meaning to it. So if we come to this team building exercise today, we have some great things and some great kumbaya moments, or we get a good tip today, and we don't put it in place, it doesn't really matter. You know, are you actually going to respond and do these things, or are we going to just continue? Because we have to change the way we've been doing things to get a different result. And I know the stats that were shared with you guys earlier. How many people, when someone's mad, how many people do they tell? A lot. You know, Harvard case studies are showing between 7 and 12 people when they're mad. It's crazy. And then when you're happy, how many people do you tell? Most people only tell 2 or 3. Why does that happen? I don't know. It's for negative people, I guess, okay? So here's the thing I'm going to leave you with today, is according to USA Today, only 7% of conference attendees actually take action. Look around the room. Only like, you know, out of 60 people or 70 people, there's probably only 1 or 2 statistically that would take action. But you guys are different people. Those are other people. Those are weird people. Not you people. All right? So the thing is, I want to encourage you guys to commit to taking action and to implementing these team building exercises. Implement these things you've heard today. Implement them so that you can transform your workplace. Right? Your intelligence quotient, it's your intelligence relative to your age. So you take a test, you know, and they're like, you have a high IQ, right? But the older you get, if you don't get more knowledgeable, then your IQ would, in theory, go down. But he talks about 2 other kinds of Qs. EQ. And I want you guys to write that down. It's EQ. It's your emotional quotient. And what Einstein found is that when researching the world's most successful people, the people with the high EQ, the ability to rebound quickly emotionally, are the most successful. So here's an example for you. Henry Ford went bankrupt how many times? 5 times. Walt Disney went bankrupt how many times? 2 times. Wait a second. 2 times? So you mean Walt Disney, the inventor of the mouse? Yeah, so what if he emotionally rebounded slowly like some of us do, where he like talks about something bad that happened for 10 years? 10 years ago, I went bankrupt, and so I don't grow mouses anymore. No, he rebounded quickly and started again. Does that make sense? Donald Trump almost lost it all and came back, right? So the news is super worried about Oprah's network, and Oprah's like, we'll bounce back. Because this is a woman who was raped as a child, right? And it was the first black person on television. And then when she was on television, they wouldn't give her any decent placement, and then she overcame that. So she's not worried about ratings, right? She has a high EQ, right? And then the final Q that Einstein reminds us to think about is a thing called the AQ. And this is my final point today, your AQ. It's your attitudinal quotient. It's your attitude quotient. How quickly can you readjust your attitude when you face a major setback? Have you seen this before, though? Have you seen a customer just come in and kill the aura in the office? Have you seen this? They just scream and like, ah, and they leave, and we're all like, whoa. And then no one talks for about 15 minutes, right? We're just, has that happened though? You all look around the room and you're like, oh man. But what we're talking about is how quickly, and I would encourage you, this is some stuff that Einstein wrote, and I'm just going to give it to you. He talks about the world's most successful people can emotionally recover from a traumatic situation within a period of hours, not days or years. Hours. And attitudinally get back within hours, within minutes. So I want to encourage you, when a customer freaks out at you, make it your little game. How quickly can I rebound? Because you can't change them. You can't change what happens to you. You can just change how you respond to it. Does that make sense? All right. So homework today, we're all going to take the pledge. Everybody put your hand up. All right. Everybody repeat after me. Say, I will take some action at the office and with the karaoke.